Up next, we're going to bring up our guest, Brian Attard from the Sports Box, Dallas Cowboys diehard down in southern Jersey there. Brian, coming off a nice win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Cooper Rush, the former Giant and second time as a Cowboy now, helps Dallas win their first game of the season, 20-17 over the Bengals. How are you feeling?
I mean, you and I had a conversation when Tyron Smith went down, and I said, you know what, we should just tank the year. I mean, it's not going to work. But, I mean, look, I don't know what to make of this team right now. I mean, there's things that are surprising me to the upside and things that are just really pissing me off to the downside. It's just I guess that's Cowboys football. But, I mean, look, they've played well defensively through 2 games. You can take some solace in that. Jerry Jones seems to think Dak Prescott's going to be back in 3 days. I don't think that's necessarily the case. So, it's just very much up in the air right now. There's a lot of questions in my mind.
Definitely a lot of questions for sure. One question that I think we all have for you is the play of Micah Parsons and what he's been to this organization. Now, obviously, I know, I'm not trying to. You've been watching football a little longer than us. That's the way I'll put that. Sure. 2 sacks, 5 QB hits on Burrow. The comparisons to Lawrence Taylor are starting to come out. And I'm going to ask you, as a Cowboys fan, is it too soon to make these comparisons, or do you really see something in this kid that you think validates this?
So I think the answer to both those questions is yes, because I think when you start putting these guys in rarefied air, having played, a season and 2 games, I mean, that's the nature of sports in modern day. Everyone's always looking for the next Gretzky, the next Jordan, the next whatever. So am I surprised? No. Am I happy to see how he's played? Absolutely. When that pick was made, I was looking for offensive line help. I was looking at a Rashawn Slater. And the fact is, they went to a position that they can say that was the guy they wanted. I think when the corners went off the board, they kind of fell into it. But he's been everything and then some. I mean, you can't ask him to have played better than he has. And people saying, oh, that's the best defensive player in football. And that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to put on that kid's shoulders, but he's played really, really well. He is a weapon. He changes the entire dynamic of that defense. Because Tom, you know this. I mean, the Cowboys historically, going back even to Tony Romo's years, have been like this, an offense that can put up a lot of points, but that defense could never stop anybody. And there's people that believe in Diggs, don't believe in Diggs, whatever, different conversation. But I don't think anybody is saying anything negative about Micah Parsons, no matter who you are. And I mean, that is a legitimate center of your defense building block that they can absolutely build around. Kid's unbelievable. But he's not Lawrence Taylor. I mean, you have to do a lot for a long time to become Lawrence Taylor. That's just be real.
I could see Micah Parsons winning Defensive Player of the Year this year, by far. And we're only 2 games into the season, so he's very impressive.
Wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. Especially again, you get the high profile of being in Dallas, and that does happen.
I think the only guy I probably would expect to win it over Micah Parsons would probably be Mr. Donald over in LA. But yeah, nonetheless, there's no question Micah Parsons is an absolute beast. And I think one of the other key members of your defense, I'm thinking of a member of your secondary. It's got to be Trayvon Diggs.
Well, the funny thing about Diggs is if you look at some of his advanced numbers, he actually can't cover very well. I mean, he's got these wonderful turnover numbers, and don't get me wrong, that's fantastic. You please continue to do that. But he's not that great in coverage. I go back to the draft that year, and Lamb, and they ended up taking Diggs in the second round, and they were talking about Diggs might have been their guy in the first round had Lamb not been there. So they were thrilled to get him in the second round. That's great. They also led the league in turnovers last year. It's extremely hard to replicate. He had a big year. He hasn't really done. I mean, there was that talk with Jamar Chase. He did a nice job in locking you down Jamar Chase. That's great, but I need to see more from Diggs. I mean, again, I'm happy that I have him, but there's more to it than just picking the ball off if it lands in your hands.
Definitely.
Fair argument. And last time we met at MetLife last year was the free media soda scam.
Yeah. One of many that I'm trying to block out of my memory.
Trying to get Giants fans to fill the seats, and quite
How good was that soda, though, right? It was rare, right?
Yeah, the problem was it was only for season ticket members and only one soda per member of the season ticket clan. So,
It was so stupid.
Listen, it's a tough economy. You're asking a lot. I mean,
what, you couldn't just give us like free beers for all the shit we had to endure last year?
Yeah.
Then again, there was 10-cent beer night in Cleveland, so that might be
10-cent beer night. Oh my god.
No, Google that. It's one of the craziest
things.
I
have. I've seen the videos. It was absolutely insane. We should do it just as a social experiment. Let's just see what happens to MetLife Stadium if they offer 10-cent beers. Why not?
There is a few content creators we know that will go absolutely.
Well, I mean, it's New York. It's got to be at least $1. I mean, you got to,
Technically New Jersey.
Yeah, North Jersey's New York.
South Jersey, North Jersey. To me, it's all the same stuff. I actually have to drive through North Jersey after the show tonight. But anyway, back to the topic at hand here. The 2020 season finale, when Andy Dalton started. So, there seems to be these redheaded Cowboys quarterbacks.
How young we were, Tom. How young we were.
It doesn't seem to do too well against the Giants. Was the first win the Giants had against Dallas since 2016. Not only that, the Giants haven't been 3-0 since 2009. That was the year we started 5-0. Everyone got so excited, and then we finished 8-8. So something's got to give in this game. And I guess my first question, the Cowboys, they will be without Dak Prescott. I know he had some non-throwing work in there today. How did they get it done with Cooper Rush under center?
I had no expectations for Cooper Rush. I mean, how can you? It's Cooper Rush, right? So, I mean, I guess the definition of a game manager is exactly what he needs to be. Like, don't go out there and be a hero. Don't go out there and try to, play hero ball and screw it up. Now, look, I'm not well documented. I am not a Dak guy by any stretch of the imagination, but let's be real. Dak Prescott is significantly, leaps and bounds a better quarterback than Cooper Rush. And you can see it. You hear all this nonsense now of Jerry talking about, this could be a quarterback controversy. And I think it's hilarious because he's just old and senile and he wants the attention like a 16-year-old girl. Like that's all he cares about because they can't win. They can't really win the big one. So at least he's got that. I mean, if the answer to your question is Cooper Rush, then that question's pretty hilarious. So like, you need to not rely on him to do anything. I mean, he's there and he's a warm body in a seat, but if it comes down to Cooper Rush having to win a game against an actual professional football team, I don't think that's a advantageous situation. So, I mean, look, he played okay. I mean, against the Bengals, okay. I mean, the Bengals defense is not going to, overwhelm anybody. Not that many defenses in the league this day and age do, but he needs to not go out there and, pretend that he's Joe Montana because he's not.
Would you have taken Ben DiNucci over Cooper Rush?
I mean, between door number 1 and door number 2, I'll choose death in door number 3. Between those 3, it does again. I'm a very vocal Dak critic. I do not think he is the guy to get you to a championship. I think he's a guy, and I think that he gets a lot of the adulation and everything else that he gets because he's a quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. It cuts both ways. If it were really up to me, I would have actually preferred more of a veteran backup, like a guy who's been somewhere and done something.
Andy Dalton.
Not that, but I mean, how many teams can say, "Oh, our quarterback's down and we're going to be okay"? I mean, really not that many. So I can't blame them for that.
Well, we have Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, we invested a lot of money into that.
I was just going to say, Tyrod Taylor, I think, wouldn't necessarily be a terrible alternative.
He's not the best, but he's better than what we've had.
Get it done.
I mean, as long as
Poor guy's only lost his job because
keep him away from the medical staff.
Right. Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. And he's suing that doctor.
Yeah, there's a lawsuit going on right now. But,
who's still employed?
Yeah.
I'm working on Justin Herbert right now.
That guy's been done dirty a lot.
It's a tough labor market. People can't find jobs.
We know Sam's a big Justin Herbert fan. But anyway.
I love that kid.
Yeah, he's great. My first key to the game, and we'll go around the horn here. Make Cooper Rush air it out, right? I think the Giants need to stack the box, stack Ezekiel Elliott. Now, I get it. Michael Gallup's coming back. But Leonard Williams isn't going to be able to go in this game. And if Kayvon, Thibodeaux, and Azeez Ojulari both play, it'll be both of their first games of the season. For Kayvon, it'll be his first game as an NFL pro.
Mm-hmm.
And Cooper Rush last week, the numbers weren't bad, but they weren't anything eye-popping. I think you have to make him air it out, get in his face. I think it'll be a fun game. I mean, we know Jihad Ward is very capable of stopping the run. Dexter Lawrence, I think those guys will do fine. And granted, Brian, I have no shame in saying that Zeke has looked like trash the first 2 weeks of the season.
That just means your eyes work.
Right. So I think making Cooper Rush air it out can really benefit this team. Sam, what's your key to the game?
I would definitely have to say, our offensive line has been something that we've been working on for a while. Like, they need to step it up in this game. They need to make it happen, because if you have someone like Micah Parsons on the other side, this Cowboys defense is very, very good. And if they played the way they did this past week against the Panthers, I mean, like Brian said, there's not too many defenses that are going to make you feel very pressured. If Daniel Jones can't get the ball down the field, if he can't be doing those things that we've been seeing him do, like, in his moments, like, we're not winning this game whatsoever. The offensive line needs to make it happen, step up, all these guys, not just the rookies, not just Evan Neal. And, it's just, that's the piece. Because when they're there and they're working, Daniel Jones is working, Saquon's working, we get points on the board.
I would have to say that my key to the game would be careful for whoever starts at tight end. Now, it seems, from what I understand, it seems like Dalton Schultz is not going to be playing in this game. And Dalton Schultz has had a history of doing well against the New York Giants. So that's one thing that could go in the Giants' favor. However, if you also look at the Giants historically, there have been plenty of other no-name tight ends that have come out and burned them. So I would definitely be very wary, because, they probably won't have a lot of film on whoever ends up starting in that position. And I would definitely say I would think a good idea would be to put Julian Love on that tight end, because he's been doing well with tackling this year. So I would definitely say watch out for the tight end. But then, of course, I'm also going to go with my obligatory get off the field on third down.
I like it. Brian, is Schultz out yet? Do we know?
I don't know specifically. I haven't seen anything concrete either way. I know he obviously left the game last week with an injury. I haven't seen anything specifically that he's in or out.
And the backups are
Jake Ferguson, who was a fourth-round pick.
And then Peyton Hendershot, something like that.
Great name.
Yeah. Who neither of them have caught an NFL pass yet. But historically, that doesn't mean much when it comes to the Giants. And Hank, you mentioned getting off the field on third down. The Giants have the number one third down defense through 2 weeks, 21.7 conversion rate for the opposition. The Panthers were just 2 for 12 on third down last week, and Baker Mayfield had held to just 145 passing yards. But Brian, what really concerns me is I still think you could win this football game. I think your defense is solid. I mean, Micah Parsons, I know there's patches that need to be fixed, but what's your overall take on the Dallas defense and one key for them to beating the Giants? Because I think they could cause us a lot of problems.
I think if you break down the units, that's clearly the strongest unit on either team. And I think the key to the game is, frankly, the same for both teams. It's make the other quarterback beat you. Right. Because, from a Cowboy perspective, if they're able to get a lead and make Danny Dimes beat us through the air and let the defense do their thing, Jones has not broken 200 yards passing in a game yet this year. It's really been heavily on Saquon. If Dallas can get a lead, if they can force Jones to throw, that is a recipe for success. And maybe you get that first pick for Diggs, and maybe he gets off the Schneid and maybe gets some confidence going. It's been a really ho-hum start to the year for him. But, defensively, they've played for all of the talk. Look, you the only team to not score a touchdown week one and all this nonsense, whatever. But defensively, they've allowed 19 and 17 points respectively to high-powered offenses led by Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. Like, it's not as if they've it's not as if they've played Jared Goff in Detroit, like the Eagles are, great RD. Yeah, up 35 points against Goff. Great job. But like they've actually shut down really vibrant, high-powered offenses. So you have to take some solace in that. So you're not built to go out there and score 28, 35 points, maybe the way you were with a full complement of receivers and a healthy offensive line and an actual NFL quarterback. But defensively, you can do some damage. So to me, if they can get out to some sort of lead and force the Giants to throw, which they have not done overly well so far this year, it's only been 2 games, but his career, he hasn't really been that ideal. That is the key to the game. You have to have your defense win a game for you. The offense has to do just enough. It's almost like I don't want to say that the Cowboys or the Ravens or anything like that. But what I'm saying is it's like that old kind of mentality is. I remember one time, I think it was when McNair went to Baltimore. He said, Ray Lewis said, if you give us 17 points, we'll win. And it's kind of one of those things for the defense. Like if they can shut down the aerial attack, 17 points might win this game.
Mm-hmm. You could argue that the Giants were able to do that with the Panthers this past week. I mean, the defense shut down the Panthers. Sure. Graham Gano got 4 field goals. We won the game. Like they got 1 touchdown on the board. So that's definitely, I 100% agree with that.
Quick shout out, Deontay McCohen. He's commenting on the post, not the stream, says, "Let's go New York Giants. We dominate on Monday Night Football," and I won't read the rest. Interesting comment there. Thank you very much for that. I don't know, Brian. I might disagree just a little bit about the Jones take. Learning a new offensive scheme yet again, and I think the issue for me is the consistency, right? Jones hasn't necessarily had to throw for 200 yards yet in a game this year because of the fact that the Giants have been leading against 2 teams who are a combined 0-4 through 2 weeks. I do think he eclipses that this week, but I don't necessarily think he's going to have the best game. I'm concerned about Dallas's defense, but if I'm Dallas, wouldn't you be concerned a little bit about the offensive line? There's no Tyron Smith. I think Connor McGovern is out as well, right? So there's your whole left side wiped out, Brian.
I am very, 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 very concerned about the offensive line. That's why I told you, that they really, if there was one guy, you asked me this earlier, if there was one guy who I would take off your team in a heartbeat, it is and people say Barkley, right? That's the easy answer, but I'm not a running back guy. It's Evan Neal. Look at the age on the Cowboys offensive line, and you look at a guy like Neal, 6'8", 337. He's just a monster of a human being, right? And like Tyler Smith is fine, the first round pick from this year. I'm not complaining. He's done a really nice job. Thrown into a role maybe he really wasn't necessarily set up to be because of the injuries. Neal's a 15-year left tackle. I mean, he's the second most important player on the field, in my opinion, behind the quarterback. I love that kid. That would be the exact thing that the Cowboys are missing right now. You bring up Elliott looking like trash, which he absolutely 150% has, and I think that it's not really much of a surprise to me. There's all this talk of the preseason about how he's in great shape, this, that, and the third. He's got 52 yards in the first game and 53 in the second, right? So you're getting paid a lot of money. What I think is happening right now is what has happened his entire career, and that he's been a product of that offensive line. And now with all those injuries, the production isn't there. If Evan Neal got dropped on the Cowboys line, I'm sure that he could get 100 yards because he will have the protection. Mm-hmm. So I think in both cases, I don't think either team can rely on their offense to win the game, with the exception of if Barkley just takes it over, which he absolutely can do. He is that kind of a player. And I think it'll be a very interesting offseason to see if they write him the check.
You answered my question there with Evan Neal. But yeah, I do agree with your Zeke take.
I love the Giants draft. I think I told you.
Yeah, they did good.
Very that's exactly what you needed. A pass rusher and a left tackle. What
Joe Shane.
Very good.
As you should have. And it's something that we've been screaming about for, I don't know, probably a certain era of previous general managers whose name we mentioned.
Sure.
We like to have fun here on the show, Brian, and we like to refer to our defense as this. The new name of our defense, Wink's Funhouse. That's what we're going to call it, because, I mean, the guy blitzes like an animal. I mean, we saw what he's done the last 2 weeks, but I mean, I just think it should be very, very interesting. But moving into more of our players to watch, Sam and Hank, Brian just answered the question, one player he'd steal from the Giants. Who's one player each of you would steal from the Cowboys?
Micah Parsons, 100%. That would be my guy. I'd pick up Micah Parsons in a heartbeat. He's definitely my player to watch this week. Kind of to tie into my key to the game, which was to have a better offensive line with someone like him on the other side of the ball. So he's going to be a powerhouse. He can take Daniel Jones down, no problem. He's definitely going to be someone we need to watch. And are we doing players to watch on the Giants too?
You know what? We'll go with the steal first, and then we'll go players to watch.
Gotcha. So yeah, so that's my steal.
Hank, what's your steal?
Well, I mean, I would say Micah Parsons, and that's probably my answer anyways, but I'm just going to be a little different and say Zach Martin just for the sake of offensive lineman in years past. And I knew Tom would flip out at me for saying that because I'm saying a Notre Dame player.
Yeah, even though he went to that school,
Yeah. I'm just really saying anybody.
I know he's a Notre Dame.
It was also my pick.
Sorry, Tom.
Go on.
But yeah, no, he's a good member of the offensive line. That's been an area that's been a need for the Giants for years. So really, enough said. And as far as player to watch in this game, I'm going to go with, and I'm going to stick with the offensive line angle on this for the New York Giants. Andrew Thomas, he has been the pillar of the Giants offensive line and probably one of the big reasons why our offense has been able to get going at all during these games. And he has not allowed a sack in quite some time. So that's what I'm going with.
All right. So Hank, thank you for that. You jumped the gun just a little bit, but that's okay.
My apologies.
My steal was also going to be Zach Martin for this reason. And, I'm not going to change it at this point because I don't want to sound stupid. But through 2 weeks, the pressure rate on Daniel Jones has been 49.3% on his dropbacks. That's the most in the league. Jones has still managed to complete 71% of his passes for 3 touchdowns and just 1 interception. But you look at what we have up front, Ben Bredesen, John Feliciano, and Mark Lewinsky. The left guard position has been a rotation between Ben Bredesen and the 3rd round pick that I do not like. I did not like that pick, but Josh Azudu. Galinsky's the only one I feel comfortable with. Feliciano's moving from guard to center. He's nice, but he's going to give up pressures here and there. So I think for me, if we had Zach Martin, that would shore up the middle of the line a little bit better, as I'm sure Brian is dreading the fact that he's getting older. So, his window is beginning to close. So
if you really want, you're exactly right. I mean, it's kind of weird right now, like the way the Cowboys are. Like they're kind of in like a stealth rebuild. Like I know that they can't come out and say that, right? Because they're the Dallas Cowboys. But if you really think about it, right? Like so much was made of them moving on from Amari Cooper in the offseason and all that. I think anybody who's paying any attention at all knew, and you and I have talked about this either on my show or your show or whatever. They knew that Cooper was gone going into this season specifically because of the way the contract was, because when they drafted CeeDee Lamb, that was your number one guy. Cooper was making what he was making. It was always going to be a divorce coming into this year. And there was this joke going around, the internet. I love the internet, but of the Eagles getting more for Jalen Reagor than the Cowboys did for Cooper. And it's such an idiotic point because Cooper came with that heavy contract that the Cowboys washed their hands of. So it's not as if, they were going to cut him. So it's not like, oh, they only got a 5th round pick. I don't care if they got, bad goons. Like they were going to let him go anyway. So it doesn't really matter. And I think that move, because of the money it freed up and the fact that they didn't use that money for anything else, is a precursor to them moving on from that trash bag in the offseason when the contract becomes less punitive to get out of. They can't cut him now. It's a negative cap it if you do it. At least into next year, it's positive, and then they can use that to pay for it. And what you're going to find out very quickly when these two teams play is they were not at all built to sustain an injury to Tyron Smith. They just weren't. So, and I think that when that happened, that put a huge black cloud over the whole season. If you may not remember, Tom, you might, because I think we talked about it, but Tyron Smith missed a game a few years ago when they went into Atlanta, and Adrian Claiborne just teed off on Dak Prescott. He got 6 sacks by himself that game because they just were not ready. If the Giants can get pass rush, it's a huge. I mean, if they can And Cooper Rush ain't that good to begin with. So if they can make him like have no time to find somebody open, it's that the Giants have a chance to, really. This is going to be a game, I think, won by either defense at the end of it.
Yeah. So, Sam, I'll get to you here. One player to watch from the Cowboys and then one from the Giants.
I would argue that my player to watch would still be Micah Parsons. I'm just going to go defense all around on the Cowboys side just because they are the stronger suit on that team. And I think I kind of said my piece before about him. So I'll just talk about the Giants. Kayvon. If he comes into this game, first game in the NFL, first game at MetLife, primetime football, division rival, I can just feel the ampness just coming from him, coming from the stadium, coming from everybody. And if he does come in, I feel like he's just going to pop off. I mean, hopefully he does it in a limited type of way so he doesn't get more hurt, because we don't want that. We want him to come out and continue to be healthy and play for the rest of the season. But my eyes are going to be on him, and just to see what he does for our team as a whole. Like, this is us seeing him in the colors for the first time. So he's definitely going to be my Giants player to watch.
Love it. Hank, who do you have for Dallas? I know you already mentioned Andrew Thomas for the Giants, but who's your Cowboy?
My Giants one obviously has not changed. And for the Cowboys, I don't really know who else I could say. I like Micah Parsons is a guy who just pretty much speaks for itself. I mean, he's probably the one member that can take control of the game all by himself. And I think that's probably why I put him and Thomas hand in hand in that department.
I want to ask the three of you a little Monday morning draft quarterback, knowing what we know now, right? Mm-hmm. Would you have taken Parsons, or would you have done what they did? Because I love that trade for them. I loved that trade for them with the Bears for Justin Fields. Right? But knowing, again,
we got Kadarius that year.
Yeah, which I don't know that that's worked out really well to this point. But what I'm saying is, knowing what you know, if you could turn back time like Cher, would you take Parsons at that spot and be done?
This is why I'm going to say that I can't fully answer that question yet. And this is no BS excuse coming from me, and you know that, Brian.
Sure. Yeah.
Thibodeaux hasn't played a snap yet, which granted we picked him 5th, but the pick was 7 from Chicago that we wound up getting in return for that trade down, and it was Evan Neal, a player that Dallas had very high on their draft board. I would have done something different at 20. I wouldn't have gone receiver at 20, but I like the player Kadarius Toney coming out of Florida, because Garth was blowing my ear about him for two months before the draft. So when the Giants took him, I'm like, all right, I'm not. I might have been the only one that didn't have a knee-jerk reaction to it, because Garth, thanks to Garth. But the thing is, Brian, it sucks because Parsons went the pick literally right after us. Now, yes, but I can't fully give you an answer for that reason I just said.
Fair.
Yeah, I would argue the same, but I think that going down was one of the best things that we did, because we were able to get both Kayvon and Evan Neal in this draft, and having those basically back-to-back picks anyway. I mean, we weren't even expecting to get Kayvon. We were expecting to get Evan Neal at 5. At least that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And, I didn't even know what we were going to do at 7, but am I the biggest Kadarius Toney fan? No. Would I like to see more from him? Yes. But, it is what it is. But yeah, it was probably one of the best trades that we were able to do. That led us
not to jump Hank here, but what you just said is exactly why I love the Giants that draft class, because they just let the draft come to them. Yeah. They didn't go up there and go try to reinvent the wheel. I mean, these were both of those players at one point could have gone first overall. Like, if you think back to
100%,
like those mocks throughout the season, which, they're worth nothing, but whatever. I mean, the point is that, people in the know thought at certain points throughout the offseason that Evan Neal could go 1 and Kayvon Thibodeaux could go 1. So to get them where, how can you just not love everything that they did in that draft? I mean, that was, to give you that was the character turn in a wrestling thing, right? Because like the new front office comes in and immediately does something wonderful, and everybody's like, okay, let's go, So departure from what was there.
So I like that you use the share reference. And look, I'm sure there are a lot of different things I could do for the Giants if I could turn back time, but that's a tangent for another day. And Brian, I'm sure you've probably heard me talk about things I'd do for the Rangers if I'd turn back time. But
quite a few things, yes.
Oh, yeah, plenty. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't think the draft is necessarily one of them. Now, who they took in the first round, that's another matter entirely. But the fact that they were able to be in the position to get Neal and Thibodeaux, like, I don't care that Thibodeaux hasn't played a game yet. I've seen enough film on him, and I've seen enough film on Evan Neal to know that they are both going to be building blocks for the Giants for years to come. So, unfortunately, you can't necessarily have everything. So, I'm going to say no to like taking Micah Parsons, although that's a very difficult decision.
I asked a hard question.
It's tough, Brian, because now we have Wink, and I don't know if Parsons would be a guy you'd be able to keep long-term with the way Wink pays his linebackers. That's why Blake Martinez got cut. They don't pay them at a high premium, which is why you're seeing like the Tay Crowders and the Austin Calitros and the Micah McFadden's come in and play linebacker. But Brian, I'll ask you same question I asked Hank and Sam. Player to watch for Dallas, player to watch for the Giants. And don't feel pressure to go Parsons here because we all know that's the shoe-in answer.
No, I mean, I think if the Cowboys get an interception from Trayvon Diggs, they win the game. Like, I don't know if it's like because again, I mean that you lived and died by the turnover last year, and you led the league, and it was great. I had not seen a Dallas defense play that well in my adult life, to my recollection. So, if you can get back into the swing of things, if you can start forcing mistakes, you're only going to help the offense. It's going that I think is still. You can only ask so much. I mean, I don't care. It's Cooper Rush. Like, be real, right? So, for me, like that's one guy that if he can come around, I think that legitimately could be a turning point in the game. That might change everything. My players to watch on the Giants are the entire wide receiving corps, because you and I go back, Tom. We talked about this when they signed Kenny Golladay, and I said to you, I don't like it. I don't like it because I don't know if that guy can be an alpha receiver and is being paid like an alpha receiver, and that has expectations, and clearly he hasn't played well. Tony, to my recollection, has not yet gotten a touchdown in his career. I don't think. Okay.
No touchdowns in his career.
Okay. So if you ever want to break out of something like that, you would love to do it at home against a division rival on prime time, right? So that'd be great. But I think for the Giants to hit whatever ceiling they're going to hit this year, and again, I don't think anyone's going to say they're going to be a Super Bowl contender. I think you guys are over the moon with that they've won the first 2 games. I think it's been forever since they've done that. So great, good stuff. I like what the coach has done there. I have a personal like for Dable because of his Rangers connection. That's off the record. But anyway.
Yes, sir.
If you can get these receivers to be functional professional football players, I mean, that opens up everything. Because now it just feels like Saquon's doing so much, but like it's kind of like one of those things like it's coming and you can't stop it. Now have to account for the fact that these receivers aren't terrible. You have to actually plan for them. It's not single coverage. It's not whatever. They actually might do something. That opens it up for him. Like they need that. So for me, it really would not surprise me whatsoever. It's a great storyline. Both of them get touchdowns in this game. And I think that would change the entire rest of the season for the. It's something stupid like that. Like that one thing. Like, oh my God,
mental.
It's all confidence. Like once you get when it rains, it pours. You could see them go after that. Again, I still don't think Golladay is an alpha. I think he's a great number 2. If Tony can become that, you're cooking with gas at that point.
If I remember correctly, did Tony go off against the Saints or the Cowboys last year?
I don't remember. I think I thought he might go off against the Cowboys, but then he didn't do anything.
I think it was the game prior.
I've been calling for the Kadarius Toney breakout game for a year and a half. So.
It happened against the Saints, but then after that, he got hurt, as did everyone else in that game. I think Barkley sprained his ankle, popped his ankle pretty much on Tony's shin. So that's what was awful about that game. For me, I'm going to go with Michael Gallup for Dallas because he's returning from injury. We know the Giants have a load of injuries in the secondary, and let's list them. Cornerback number 2, Aaron Robinson, had his appendix removed late last week, did not practice again today, unlikely to play. Nick McLeod, hamstring injury, did not practice. Justin Lane, concussion, did not practice. So, again, you're looking at Cordell Flott, Fabian Moreau, who was signed off of Atlanta. And Noah will tell you all you want to know about Fabian Moreau, why he was let go on the street. So the Giants secondary really concerns me in that regard. But what we saw last week was Adoree Jackson was locked down on Robbie Anderson, did not get any clearance. And when Cordell Flott was matched up against DJ Moore, it was not very successful. So I think whoever is that wide receiver 2 for Dallas, and right now it looks like it'll be Gallup, despite how well Noah Brown has played, leading the team in receiving yards, I believe. It's going to be interesting to see Gallup matched up against that third-round rookie, Cordell Flott. I think that's a very underrated matchup because I'm not going to assume, but with the chance that Dalton Schultz doesn't play, Gallup is that next guy that Cooper Rush is going to target. Especially when you're a quarterback like Cooper Rush, it's easier to target the tight ends and the secondary receivers rather than your prime number 1.
Yeah, but even from that standpoint, though, like CeeDee Lamb has been a massive disappointment to me so far this year. And again, you can attribute that to, Dak didn't play well week 1, he had Cooper Rush in week 2, but you're supposed to be this guy, like you were the reason they got rid of Cooper and this and that. And then you got guys like Noah Brown leading the team in receiving, despite the fact that he's got 8 fewer targets across the 2 games. Like, like
I hear you on that.
You're wearing 88 in Dallas, kid. Like expectations come with that. And you're not, 2 years in a row now. Like he's been this, he's the fantasy guy. You got to go get all these touchdowns. Hasn't been there. So if you are going to be the next guy in that lineage and live up to that, maybe that expectation's too much for him. But I mean, that's what they had him very high coming out of the draft. Everybody thought it was a slam dunk pick for them. I haven't seen enough to know. Not yet. And I should by now. That's what I'm saying. Like by now in your career, like I should see you having relative success on a consistent basis. That's the talent that you have. I'm not seeing it.
Speaking of fantasy, my next player to watch for the Giants is owned in 1.8% of fantasy football leagues.
Daniel Jones?
Richie James, the receiver that leads the Giants in receiving as well. Richie James was a bubble player come the preseason. He's dealing with a lot of injuries. He played for San Francisco. He dealt with injuries there, but now he's finally healthy, and look at what he's doing. Perfect slot receiver. Daniel Jones is very comfortable giving him the football, and I think he could cause some problems for Dallas. 10 catches, 110 yards in 2 weeks. That's a guy that can roll that middle of the field. I also think you have to consider Tony, since Dallas, you could argue their weakness is Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, whoever starts at corner 2, opposite of Diggs. And then, I mean, just to add one more honorable mention is O'Shane Ximines, the guy who, quite frankly, could end up feasting against the Dallas left tackle, if that's Tyler Smith, if it's Terrence Steele on the other side, whoever it may be, right? Because somebody's got to start opposite of Thibodeaux. I mean, they're going to rotate. They're not giving Thibodeaux and Ojulari 50 snaps. There's no way. They're going to get limited reps, but they're going to play. So I think O'Shane Ximines could benefit off of that. So those are my players to watch, especially with Leonard Williams not likely to play with that sprained MCL. And receiving-wise, back to Richie James for a second, Wan'Dale Robinson did not practice again today with a knee injury. So I think Richie James all becomes that more evident to this football game. But quickly here, we'll go over some injuries. And, Brian, I don't think any of these are surprising. Dak, Dalton did not practice today. Connor McGovern, ankle, likely won't play. Jaron Kearse, secondary guy. Parsons is dealing with an illness. Do we know what that is? Do we know what that's about?
I'm not aware of that. Now I'm frankly concerned because you mentioned that.
Right, because if it's I think it's a little COVID thing, he can't play. But hopefully that's not what it is.
Nah, it seems like it's just a cold.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Although who knows anymore, right?
Yeah, right. So my take here is that Golladay does score a touchdown this week.
I can see it.
I do. I think he has the size, and he's going to take advantage. I just mentioned if there's one weakness on the Dallas defense, it's the other corner not named Trayvon Diggs. And there's a good chance Diggs could see a lot of Sterling Shepard. So I think Golladay could benefit off of that in the red zone. They need to target him. So I think that's my hot take of the week. Golladay scores a touchdown. Any thoughts
spicy,
on that?
Tom. Pretty spicy.
Yeah,
it's like
I actually think both defenses score a touchdown.
I could see that too.
I just this is not a quarterback game to me.
No, it's not. It's not.
Cooper Rush v. Daniel Jones. Selling tickets like nobody's business.
If this were like a wrestling card, this would be the match they don't show on TV.
Yeah.
Brian McGardle of From the Stand Sports. I'll be recording my college football show with him and Andy Hopper from the hotel tomorrow up in Connecticut. Shout out to you, Brian. Parsons is suffering from TMSS, too many sacks syndrome.
He's pretty good.
Always good.
Very clever, Brian.
Brian's been targeting me on Notre Dame, and every time he does, I'm like, you should live up to your last name for once. He just doesn't listen. But I don't know. It's rough. But Brian, before we get into our game predictions, anything you want to add on the Cowboys that we should look out for on Sunday? I think we pretty much cover the basis of this team.
Yeah.
Leighton Vander Esch, we didn't mention him. Anthony Barr. I mean, those are the only two guys we really didn't talk about. I think Vander Esch leads the team in tackles, but
about time. No, I mean, like I said, I think if you were
Volkswagen,
yeah, if you were to stack the units in this game, I mean, the Cowboys defense is, I think, the strongest unit of the two teams, and I think if they're going to win the game, that has to be the team. That has to be what leads the way. You're not set up right now for many reasons, but some to injury and some to just lack of talent to win a game offensively right now. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, it's. The defense for this team to do anything this year, and trust me, I don't think they're doing anything this year, but if they are, it's going to be led by the playmakers on your defense, like a Parsons, like a DeMarcus Lawrence, and like a Trayvon Diggs, different levels of the defense. You need like just huge effort out of those guys. Like you need to capitalize on whatever mistakes the other team is going to make, because your offense is probably going to make a few themselves. So I don't know if we're going to make a prediction on the game here. I mean, I guess I'll go ahead. I think that, like I said, I think both defenses score a touchdown. Like I think it's one of those, maybe you hear the Benny Hill theme in the background in some of these offensive plays, but just something tells me it's just going to be a real tight game. I don't know what the line is right now, but something tells me that the Cowboys defense being the best unit of the game makes the difference. Give me the Cowboys in like 23-20, but nobody runs away with anything here. Tight game the whole way.
I think the line is 3.5 Giants.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Giants plus 3.5, or they're favored.
It's gone up to 3.5.
That's the last thing I saw.
Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah. Which is surprising because I'm thinking the same thing as Brian in terms of my game prediction. I think that this game could literally go either way, Giants or Cowboys. Am I running on an adrenaline high of 2-0? Yes, I am. I'm going to pick the Giants, but I think the score is going to be so close, 21-20. It's going to be very, very tight, and if not even less than that, in terms of scoring. So, yeah, that's my prediction. But I'm running with the 2-0. Why not? We haven't been able to do this on this show yet. I'm feeling real good about it.
Hey.
You know what? I'm scared because I feel like I'm tempting fate. But you know what? I actually, for some weird reason, I have a good feeling in the Giants this week, believe it or not. I think it's going to be another very low-scoring game. Mine's a little similar to Sam, but I'm going to go 23-19 Giants.
23-19. I see what you did there.
Yes, any Pixar fan would know what I did there.
Hank and Sam, if you both notice, I had my game prediction on the script and I took it off.
I didn't even see it, so
yeah.
It's going to be a surprise to me.
Did I convince you otherwise?
Well, this is what you're about to find out, Brian. Brian convinced me, and I'm picking the Cowboys. I don't see the Giants starting 3-0. I don't like the fact that the secondary is torn up. With Gallup coming back, I think Lamb will have a much better game. Cooper Rush is not awful. I mean, he threw for 230 yards against the Cincinnati Bengals. And we just voiced our concerns of our interior offensive line, and Micah Parsons is a stud.
Mm-hmm.
He's a stud that can completely take control of this game And the luck against the Cowboys has been non-existent with Leonard Williams being out. Both teams are dealing with injuries here. We can say, oh, but they're without Dalton Schultz. Oh, but they don't have Tyron Smith. But the Giants also, they don't have Leonard Williams. That's a huge loss. That's a huge loss. I'll argue that loss is just as big as Tyron Smith because he's the anchor of that defensive line, right? So I really regret saying this, but I'm going to pick the Cowboys. Give me a final score of 20-17. Dallas wins.
Field goal game.
And I'll be honest, Brian, when the show started, I was picking the Giants. But what you said about not just like Micah Parsons, but about Daniel Jones, all the stuff that it didn't seem right. It just didn't seem right for me to pick the Giants here. But don't get me wrong, I think there's a very good shot that they win this football game and improve to 3-0. It's just I had to go a little different here from my two co-hosts, unfortunately.
We're split.
Yes, we're split down the middle.
It really can go either way. Again, both of these teams, I mean, look, the Giants are 2-0, and you can't be better than 2-0 through 2 games. But, look, I mean, they've played, Ryan Tannehill and Baker Mayfield. I mean, this is not, air it out football by any stretch.
And that's the thing.
Taking care of business.
We were kicking field goals against a weak-ass Panthers defense last week. Dallas's defense is much better. Much better. So, and I also, again, Brian, I know you feel some type of way towards Mike McCarthy, but I also think McCarthy is at least better than Matt Rule.
I mean, if you put the bar that low, sure. You're not exactly you're having me limbo against a pole that's like 6 feet above my head.
I had to throw that one in there, but
and I'm not a McCarthy guy. That's why I said I really feel like they're in this like stealth rebuild. They don't want to say they're like not trying to contend because I guess they are, but it just feels like they're headed into an off season of change. I think the running back goes. I think the coach goes. Like it just feels like they're setting up to make this bit of a semi overhaul.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. Like, I don't know why my gut tells me that, but it just, everything that they're doing makes me think that that's the direction that they go.
Right. But anyway, Brian, anything you want to add here? And of course, we want to thank you again for joining us tonight. Your time is always much appreciated.
Pleasure is all on this side of the table.
If you could also plug the Sports Box and what you guys do over there for those who have not seen you yet on our live streams, even though Brian's been coming on for like 3 years now almost. He's one of our top contributors here.
Appreciate that.
Our live shows. So.
Yeah, it's at Sportsbox Sports, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's just what we do. Very, very similar in nature to what Review and Preview does. Big fans of what this group does. I love to see their follower count grow. We do a variety of different content. Every so often we get a funny meme here or there that I take full credit for because it's me that makes them. So usually if you laugh, you just give me a little high five through the air. And I also do a Rangers show called Blue Truth, which Hank's been on once or twice or 3 times. I'm actually doing that tonight at 9 p.m. as the NHL season is getting closer and closer. That little briskness in the air, that means it's hockey season. So we're getting ready for the puck to drop. But yeah, well, listen, I pleasure being on. I wish I was happier about things with my football team, but generally they do things I disagree with all the time. So you just got to roll with the punches.
Hold on a minute, Brian. I forgot to get this thing out for it.
What you got there?
Towel.
Oh yeah, I got a stack of them over there. I could probably yeah.
And another thing too, I will say, Brian, thank you so much for everything that you do as far as promoting Review and Preview as
Absolutely.
well. If you're watching Review and Preview, you must watch the Sports Box. They have some very awesome content. Brian, appreciate you again, and hope you have a good one, man. Thank you for your time.
All I ask of you fine people is just beat the Eagles, please. I don't want to.
We'll do our best.
Yeah, just I'm with you more than in those 2 games.
Could be worse. They could be Flyer fans. Oh wait,
Flyers fans don't exist. I think there might have been 14 people at training camp today, and I literally mean about 14 people. So,
All right, Brian, thank you very much. We will catch you on the flip. Blue Truth, 9 p.m. on the Sports Box and on the Blue Truth Facebook page as well.
Let's go Rangers.
Thanks, Brian.
All right,
Let's go Rangers.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, Brian.
See ya. That was Brian Attard from the Sports Box, and it's just the more Brian talked throughout that segment, the less confident I feel about this game. Granted, I also bought my tickets for Giants Bears, and I'm like, I can't see this team going 4-0, and they have to win the game that I'm there.
Yeah. Brian really is the most level-headed Cowboys fan I think I've ever encountered in my entire life.
He kind of like looped me down a little bit because, it's just, you ever need somebody to go to for advice, Brian's the guy to go to. So awesome guest. But I really hope the Giants win. I think there's a really good shot that we win. And it'll be interesting to talk about next week. My quick picks pick might be different from what I said on the show. So, just a little inconsistency there. But that's okay. The fans don't need to know that. But Sam and Hank, any final thoughts here before we sign off and enjoy some Thursday night football featuring Mitch Trubisky and Jacoby Brissett?
I'm really stoked for this game. I'm excited to see the ampness of the stadium again, to see these excited Giants fans, this excited Giants team, and I think it's going to be a great game either way. Whoever ends up winning, I think everyone's going to put it all out on the field.
Yeah, I agree. This is probably the most I've looked forward to a primetime Giants game in, gosh, I can't even remember how long.
Yeah.
It's been so long. And look, I'm not going to say that I feel confident in picking the Giants, but this is one of those rare times where I'm actually going with my gut, and my gut for once is actually picking the Giants. So again, let me just knock on my little wooden desk and see how this works out. But regardless of what happens, it's going to be a game where you're not going to feel like too disappointed should the Giants somehow fall short.
And one final comment here. He steals our draft shows. He steals our live shows. He does it all the time. Brian McArdle says, Tom hedging a loss this week so he could witness a win in person is an all-time fan move. Thank you so much, Brian. I'll see you tomorrow on From the Stands. Sam and Hank, thank you very much for joining here tonight. This has been Big Blue Avenue. Appreciate all the comments. If you want to check us out as to what we do throughout the course of the week, here is our social media: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. Make sure to go check out that YouTube channel. We've been posting some really good stuff on there. But that covers everything, folks. Have a good night. Enjoy Thursday night football. And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.